and two wonderful children, their son Rag and daughter Jazz. She loves listening to music, watching movies, singing, dancing, and has an insane love for fruit filled dark chocolates.
Yes.
Okay, lovely hobbies and a lot of qualities, tremendous amount of work and change that you have brought in. I still am not into dark chocolates. I still like white chocolates or milk chocolates anyway.
How for
There's
babies? How for babies?
so I'm sure you prefer your coffee also is dark without milk.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So thank you, Ms. Nishita, for the introduction displayed here. So, Ms. Kiran, I hope you're all set for the questions from me.
Yes, come on.
Shooting them to you now. And for your information, we have 108 participants. Basically, Adarshila Talks is a platform for the teachers of my school to listen to educators like you and get inspired. But we always wanted to share our joy with our community, our fraternity of teachers, and hence it's open to all. So I'm welcoming 110 people at the moment to this talk show for coffee over K coffee with K Kiran.
Okay,
And
yes.
so, Kiran, in the beginning, I would just like everybody to know that in one of her TED Talks, she had said contagious is a good word. Especially in today's time, contagious is taken with a very negative connotation. But she has said contagious is a good word because energy is contagious, passion is contagious, inspiration is contagious. And hence, today we are here taking this chance to get that infectious and contagious energy of yours, passion of yours, and let it rub off on us a little. So, Kiran, the very first thing that I would like you to tell us is how would you describe yourself in 3 words? Those could be 3 adjectives.
Flawed and fabulous.
I missed the first word.
Flawed.
Flawed.
Flawed and fabulous.
In fact, I read this book recently, Ikigai, and that talks about beauty of flaws.
Yes,
Beautiful.
absolutely.
Flawed is beautiful. So
Flawed and fabulous. I think the idea that we're all a work in progress,
I
and
agree.
one day we inch towards our fuller self and our more complete self is a wonderful journey. So I have loved walking this journey, being totally messed up, not doing anything, flawed, but to
Fabulous.
the idea that we offer something to the world is a fabulous feeling. So yes, flawed and fabulous.
Excellent. And I think most of us can relate to it. Thank you. Now, as we all know you because of the Design for Change and the Riverside International School, what I know is that you were into design professionally and you worked for a decade in that field and then you moved into education. So, where did you get this inspiration to get into school education and what drove you?
Well, just a little background. I was born and brought up in Bangalore, and I remember enjoying going to school. I went to a wonderful school. I didn't learn very much, but I enjoyed going there. Just I think friendships was a big reason.
Right.
And unfortunately, I was quite good in academics. So the only thing then, I'm talking about like 40 years ago, if you happened to be good in your studies, you had only engineering or mathematics or medicine, right? These were the two professions.
Right.
So I remember, which school? The Bishop Cotton Girls High School. So I went there.
Okay.
And I was in my 11th grade, and I had gone to this wonderful college called Jyoti Nivas College, I think. I can't remember it. And I was convinced that I was going to become a surgeon, a doctor.
Okay.
I got 99% in zoology for some strange reason. But it was in the vacation, the holidays when my sister.
I request everyone to keep themselves on mute. On mute, please.
Someone else is listening to me. So and it was in December, and there were reached out to me from the NID and said, "Why don't you just try? It's such a great place." And I thought to myself, listen, how does it matter? I'm anyway got my holidays, so I applied. And I was invited to NID to for the interview. And that time it was a really big deal. I mean, they were only taking in 24 students every year. But Jaya, I walked into NID and I remember breathing for the first time. I said, "Oh my God, this is what learning feels like." You know, there was genuine interest. There were people who were interested in you, and they were not just instructing or speaking down to you. And I kept thinking, this is what the magic is. This is what learning is. And they were going to take only people who had graduated from the 12th. And I remember walking into my interview, and I had this 3-hour interview, and they were asking me all these questions, right from if boys fall in love with you, what will you do, to if there was a crisis and your school had to convert into a refugee camp, how will you design it, etc.
Wow.
And I remember walking out of the interview, and somebody said, "But you applied to go for medicine." And I turned around and I said, "If you get me in, I'll come here." And I have to tell all of you, I then have not even graduated 12th. I'm a very unpad banda.
But
So
then
I got into NID after my 11th. And I think, like they say, the rest is history. I loved the first year. I learned practically everything that has to do with learning in that first year. And the idea of contagion, the idea that it's such a powerful experience. I remember thinking, my God, at 17, I experienced what it should feel like when children at 7 should have that same experience. But I had no interest in education beyond the fact that I loved working with children. And then I graduated, I started my design studio, and I was having a blast. I was designing restaurants and themes, etc. And I was just having the best time ever. And then I became a mama. And oh my God, I fell in love with my Baba. I held him in my arms and I thought to myself, "Oh my God, this is going to be the best. People will know you and they will know your name." You know, all that fancy stuff you tell about your child. And when my son went to school, he went to a very premier school here because my husband had gone to that same school. So, and I'll tell you something, I don't know how parents do that now, but at that time, I don't think you really do your due diligence about education. You will have more time talking about, you go to a vegetable vendor and fight for that tomato, but you will not do that same due diligence for education. It'll either be, "Oh, somebody told me," or "My husband went." It's just that very simplistic way we think about our children. Well, he went to school. He was one of 60 children in an all-boys school, and 3 months in, I remember walking to that teacher and saying, "Tell me about my son. Tell me what he loves doing. Tell me whose friends are." And she looked at me with this really bored expression, which I have seen many, many times in education. And she asked me, "What is his roll number?" And I thought to myself, "Shit, man, my son doesn't even have a name. He doesn't have an identity. He doesn't have a story." And at that time, and I think this is what I was just sharing, I was having an interview yesterday with somebody, and I was sharing that I did 2 things. One, I reacted as a mother. I said, "My God, what is this nonsense?" Now, interestingly, if I just stayed a mother, I would have done one of 3 things. I would have either complained and said, "Aise to hota hi hai." I would have justified and said, "Listen, but my husband came out fine." Or I would have changed the school and cribbed about, right? So one of those. But I think what I did was I put on my designer hat, unbeknownst to me. And in design, that's the power of design. I keep saying design keeps asking you the question, what if? It never focuses on the problem. It tells you, "Acha, ye situation aaya, ye opportunity hua hai. Chalo, what if?" And I think that's what I did. I just asked my question that there has to be a better way. And my father once had told me when I was young, he said, "Beta, you are who you've been waiting for. Nobody else is going to come and change your life if you're not willing to do it." So I remember that quote saying that you are the choice. You are who you've been waiting for. Wow. So without thinking too much, I said, "Chalo, let me do it." So I started the school in 2001 simply to say, "Kuch to हो सकता है, and it definitely can be better than what I experienced. Yeah, so that's how my school started. And to just tell you all the how the universe functions. Now, 2001, okay, 18th of January 2001, I put the ad in the paper saying, "Acha, Riverside School," and blah blah blah. I must have got some probably 15 phone calls. Bas, only 15. ये है किधर? कौन हो तुम? And all of that. ठीक है. And I didn't care. All I wanted to do was start the school. And then 2001, 26th of Jan, I am taking the first few parents to say, come, I have a school. I'm not kidding you. And I'm ready to leave the house at 8:45. Earthquake. The biggest earthquake that
Right.
hit on that very day. And then I have to tell you very interesting thing. People have often asked me, "Yaar, why did you continue?" Because I could have easily closed down. I didn't have started. And I keep thinking to myself that if an earthquake cannot put you down, yeah, some cribbing my parents will never have a problem. So I think I learned a very good lesson that day, that all of us will get earthquakes sometime in our life. Like this COVID that is happening, in a way,
Right.
is shaping and shifting us from the thing. And I think it'll keep asking you, what did you do with this time?
Right.
In hindsight, if you can look at yourself 6 months down and say, did I rise to the occasion? Did I do something compassionate and courageous? Then I think it's a great way to lead. Yeah. So that's really how I started this book.
Thank you so much, Kiran. The way you have used earthquake as a metaphor, and it's so easy for all of us to relate to it, because we can't prevent ourselves from experiencing earthquakes day in and day out.
Yeah.
And current times are no different. Thank you. It's all about how we rise to the occasion, and we know what we have achieved. Thank you. I would now like you to tell me in brief in simple words, about design. Most of us are going to hear about design from you and would like to know what, in short, design means.
Well, if you capture the word design in just one word, it's possibility. That's what it is.
Amazing.
It is nothing but possibility and opportunity. So why is the design framework, of course, starts with empathy, the idea that you cannot ever design for somebody. You always have to design with somebody.
With
right?
somebody.
That's the power of design. And for me, it has served me so I'm an advocate. If I have to tell you all something to do, if you can, do a course on design thinking. It will suddenly make you feel optimistic. It will tell you things are possible. So for me, design is all about possibility.
Thank you, Kiran. I've been studying a lot about design thinking, and now I'll do a formal course for sure. Now, your school has been doing amazing work, not only with the children of your school, but there are students, children all across the world, 60 plus countries, for the I Can movement and the design for change. So how do you suggest schools and educators to develop those skills in children, that they can feel enabled, feel empowered to take up this I Can movement ahead? What can we do in the school?
If I have to tell you the secret, it's very simple. All a teacher has to do is listen rather than tell. Bas, that is the power.
Amazing.
Unfortunately, as teachers, we love speaking, we love telling, we love instructing, we keep saying it is for your good only.
Right.
If, for instance, a teacher, a parent, an adult in the space of children can just listen, and listen with the heart, not listen with the mind, it makes the difference. Because I'll tell you, I have met so many children who sometimes come to school to get admission, and I'll ask them, I say, "Beta, what do you like doing?" So they will say, they will think, and then they will say, "Dance." And then they will look at me and say, "But I can't do that." And it's in that small spark that somebody has dismissed your who you are as a human being. And somebody said, "That's not good enough. वो ठीक है, वो अभी के लिए नहीं है, दूसरों के लिए." So I think what I have understood, and what children have repeatedly asked of us as adults, to say, "Please just listen to me, na. Just listen to me." And in that act of listening, we give respect to a child. And in that respect, we give them the ability to understand that whatever they care for is important. And then the feel, imagine, do, share will give them the simple tools to become agents of change. So that really is the ICANN. Otherwise, I have walked into too many schools and too many classes and often asked children, "Beta, what are you doing?" Or "What are you doing?" They'll say, "I don't know, teacher told me." So that's really where the difference is. And I realize that if you listen, you have invited somebody into your story, or you have
Right.
engaged with somebody on a human level. So if I were to tell you something, it's not about any PhD. You might need a PhD for chemistry, but you do not need a PhD to listen or to
Excellent.
smile. Or to
Agreed.
acknowledge. So I keep telling teachers, believe in yourself. You are a living curriculum. You have all the magic within you. You don't need anything else. All if you can do is just listen. Bas ho gaya. That's the start of Design for Change.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for reminding us that it is all already there in the children, all the wisdom, all the excellence.
And,
Our job is only to enhance.
and each teacher, I have met the most amazing teachers who have, just look at what everybody is doing right now. We are listening to this situation.
Yes.
We're listening to the call of our children's needs. We're listening to the anxiety of our parents. We're listening to what fear is. And we're responding with compassion. It's been absolutely inspiring. Yeah.
I can completely understand your passion because it all emerges from the trust and the belief that the child has everything within herself. Thank you so much. Now it's a little off the track question, but as I know that you are married to a 9 times world billiards champion, so sports and design, education, how these worlds merge together? How is the how does it look when it merges together?
Well, I am fortunate and unfortunate to be married to a world champion who is obsessed. Okay, and I love what he calls. I had again the unique blessing to have a parent. I grew up in a very happy home, so I have to say that so much of who I am today, in hindsight, I attribute to the joy I experienced, not from necessarily my school or whatever, but just the joy of being listened to even as a youngster. My father was a remarkable man. My mother, outstanding. So whatever I learned about who we are as people, about being courageous, to be listening, to understand that your full potential is only when you serve another, all of that came out from my upbringing. So my father was the first batch of IIT Kharagpur and, gold medalist, and he wanted to be a painter. And I realized that you can be so many things. You don't have to be just one thing. All you have to do is stuff with passion. My husband, on the other hand, does just one thing, and he's done just one thing for the last probably like 35 years. And he has a remarkable way to look at his life. He says passion is a diluted word. It is obsession. For excellence, you need obsession. You can't be excellent if you are working between, acha abhi na wo mundan pe jana hai, shaadi pe jana hai, ye karna hoga. Sorry, wo sab gaya. If you want excellence, it is a single-minded pursuit. And I think, so it doesn't matter which field you are in, whether you're in sports or education.
Right.
I found my obsession there. I found that. And I remember that today, of course, he is retired from active playing, but he, of course, does so much more. But I think the understanding that if you declutter everything, so for me, I don't socialize, I don't go for parties, etc. So none of that really takes my time. For me, it is just work. And when there is, and then there is home. So I have only 2 things that take my time: my family, and now not even that much because my children are living their own lives. So for me, obsession is the fine art of knowing I know something today that I didn't know yesterday. And it is a pursuit. And it is a pursuit. I am absolutely in love with it. I love learning. I love the idea that today like this, that I'm sitting here and talking to you all, and I might have, another little fabulous moment with you all, is 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 such a delight. So so we collide in the pursuit of excellence. All of us collide in the idea of obsession and understanding what that takes from us, and therefore these are choices we make. So I don't complain about that. And I think the joy of, for me, family. For me, that's the central, solar system by which my whole life functions, and my team and my kids. Oh, just too much. Yes, I'm deeply in love with everybody.
Yes, so we can understand this is your whole world, this little world in this big world where you are making those changes which are going to impact the bigger world as well. And the way you explained obsession for passion, I think that's very, very, very important. Without which it's not possible to be able to deliver what we are meant to deliver. And I was going to ask you who has impacted your thoughts and visions, but I can see through your talk that it's your parents who have given you the initial molding towards what you have become today. Is there anybody else you would like to mention who has contributed in making you what you are today?
I have a 4G network. 4G.
Okay.
Of course, I mean, my DNA is my parents and stuff, but my 4G network is Gandhiji, always.
Wow.
I tell you, with that man, I have learned stamina. Oh, every time I feel a little tired, or I feel that, yaar, kitna kaam kar rahe, Tukhiman and all that stuff, I look at him and I realize there's just so much more to do. So for me, the idea of stamina comes from Gandhiji. Geet, my husband, my dear, the idea of figuring out the pursuit of excellence and obsession. I think he gives me my work ethics in a very big way. Govinda, of course, I just feel it is so important to be joyful. I think we overrate happiness and we underrate joy. And I think for me, happiness is a very extractive relationship with the world. Mere ko happy rakho, baad mein jai baki. For me, I'm not a fan of the word happiness, simply because I feel that it's such a it's transactional idea. It's like, if you give me a diamond ring, I'm happy. If you don't, I think let's reimagine happiness. So for me, the idea of joy, of the idea of being ki bhar mein jaye society. Because I remember when Govinda came, I was in such awe of his joie de vivre. He would get on there and say, I don't care where I come from. I don't care what is my story. This is who I am. And so unapologetic. And I love that. I think that we have to be, and as educators, we have to be shameless for our children.
Yes.
We cannot be polite or diplomatic. So I think for me, that even. And George Clooney, why not? Why not? Why not? Can I have one passion in my life? So I think this is I just enjoy all of the 4G network, yes.
Thank you. I love most about Govinda because that comes with, unabashed celebration of life, celebrating yourself. He has become a symbol of that, especially of the time that you were talking about Kabhi Dasve Mein Jaye.
Yeah. I mean, now I think his story has changed much, but at that point, yes.
Yeah. So maybe it's good our needle has stuck with the Govinda of that time, and it should remain stuck at that time. Thank you, Kiran, for 4Gs. Now, I have some questions related to the school culture. So, I also fall into this dilemma many times, and I've seen my fellow educators also must be thinking about it many times. A school can have a culture of more flexibility and choice and freedom. The school also can have a culture of rigidity and a lot of discipline, in rigid way. So what is your view about school? What kind of culture, and how to strike a balance, or whether we should try to even strike a balance? You prefer any one of these two, or you prefer a balance of two? And how do you do that?
For me, I believe it is shaped by the value proposition you want to live out every day, right? A culture is a shared set of behaviors.
Right.
For instance, if you have, say, cultures at home, you might be very respectful of your elderly people and say, "Nahi, jo unhone bola, wohi sahi hai," right? That's a way that you will live out possibly your other stories.
Right.
So at Riverside, I think a lot of it was built over time. We had, and I think this is one thing I will keep advocating to people who are either starting schools or want to transform schools. Take it slow. You can't rush culture, right? Cultures are seeds like you plant, and that seed needs a soil that is ready to even take those seeds. Otherwise, weeds come in much faster, and to weed out that is far more difficult once they are set, rather than planting seeds. So I think what we had the huge luxury of and the blessing of, as Riverside and as a team, we took it slow. We were in no hurry. So when I started the school in 2001, literally we grew it 1 year at a time. So what was fantastic is that the team that joined, the team that built this shared belief system, it was not, I believe this and you should follow it. It was really co-created. So as a team of 5 first that we have, and who are still with me, even like 20 years down, are still integral parts of the school. It has to be that. So I think we had the wonderful opportunity to build it together. Subsequently, when we became a certain size, when we were probably around maybe 15 to 20 teachers, there were enough people from the original story who could then continue to serve another five people. So that's very important. And I believe that, something I keep wanting to say is that you can't be a role model without living out these in your everyday. So children are going to keep watching what you're not teaching them. I'll tell you this very importantly. You get into a class and you think they're watching you. No. They're watching you outside. They're watching you when you're sitting with a group of people. They're watching you in the bus. They're watching you when you walk down the corridors. Are you bitching about somebody? Are you kind of talking rude to somebody and then telling them in the class, "Nahi, beta, you must be all of this." So several things that we learned was genuinely we learned on the job. And several things we chose to do very intentionally was things like having no staff room, having no principal's cabin. So none of those borders, I keep saying any physical border is going to give you mental borders. You more physical borders you put up, the more mental borders come. So what we chose very intentionally to do, even as a design decision, was to dissolve as many of those borders so we engage on a human level with each other. So I believe a lot of that was built, and now we're very clear. Now, if you ask me, Kiran, what do you stand for? Then I keep saying we are born human by chance, but we become humane by choice.
Yeah.
And the E that makes us humane are the value propositions that happen at Riverside. One is empathy. That is always about self-awareness and who am I with you. Ethics, choosing to do what is right over what is easy. Excellence, the pursuit of excellence, elevation and evolution. So these 5 E's have now shaped our culture. So if you walk into Riverside, you will be able to see it in the smell of the place. I remember once seeing this.
I've been there.
Yeah,
I've been there, and nobody can take that out from your mind once we have visited that place. And it's so relaxed. It looks so natural. The thing that you were talking about, keep sowing the seeds and have patience. Don't rush. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. And that's what I could feel in the entire campus of your school.
Yeah.
So relaxed. The children interacting, the senior child sitting with a junior child in a pit somewhere, and like a small kid's pool, and trying to teach or just talk out to the child. So it was so natural. The E part, the humane part that you're talking about, the genuine approach as a human being. So yes, I have
authentic, and like I said, I am really blessed with the most amazing team. And when I say amazing team, I'm talking about everybody, right from my Sunil Bhai, who's been like the gardener, who's pretty much planted just about every tree that you see at Riverside, to just to of course my just amazing team. And I keep thinking that to ensure that they want to come to Riverside every single day, we have to continue to invest so that they want to come, to this place every day. So for me, that's been the primary task I've done as a leader,
right.
Just to keep making this place amazing for them to come.
So I'm so glad that you also have believed in a team which co-creates the vision, because that actually saves one question also. because I was going to ask you, how do you bring down your vision to the team? And what I see is a participative approach. Everybody is a part of the vision, so there is no question of bringing it down to them from you. Thank you for that. And I would now like to ask you, how do you suggest the schools with very limited funds to ensure that the teachers get trained in terms of their skill and values, whatever they need, and which might require some investment? And if they have limited funds, what is the best that they can do about it?
I'll tell you something that at one point I would say, yes, that would have been a real bigger concern. I'm talking about, say, 20, 30 years ago. But I have to say now there are no excuses for lack of training, because everything is open source. Everything is online.
Like today we are
we're
utilizing this opportunity of learning from you.
Yeah, I mean, right? See this?
Yes,
I'm
yes.
giving so much gyan, I hope. But now there is such great material, free, open source, on available, that I don't think now we have an excuse anymore. And I feel that I keep saying you can have 100 reasons not to do something, and you need just one to be able to do it. So I feel that one has to be the child. And if that is the primary purpose of why you do what you do as a teacher, you've chosen, whenever you've had the choice and you've chosen to be a teacher, then you have to be the kind of person you want your student to look up to. I keep saying you cannot ask a child to be interested in your class if you're not interesting as a person. So I will say cultivate interest, talk to them, have a conversation. I learned a lot of that. I remember when I went to NID, and I remember having my first conversation with my faculty, just sitting outside. We were having a cup of chai and he was talking to us. And I kept thinking to myself, how unusual that somebody is genuinely interested in me. I never thought I was interesting as a human being, till such time that I remember Bhandari, who was this professor who kind of was actually like this, and he was listening. And I thought to myself, wow, this is so cool.
I can't believe, Kiran, you can be anything but interesting.
I'm telling you, nobody told me. My mother and father told, who takes mother and father seriously? So much later you need to, and so therefore when we keep hearing our parents saying, Dekho, he will listen to you. How many times we've had parents come and say, aap usko bolo palak khao fir khayega. Stuff like that. So you play an impressively important work when you walk into your children's lives. Once I remember being told, when I just started education, he says, next to God, it is you when you walk in. And I thought to myself, my God, that's a massive responsibility. So don't take that lightly. You play an incredibly important role. And I think it is that I would urge you to learn. And I think now there's no excuse for learning. Everything is online.
Agreed.
Everything is available. And so there is absolutely no excuse to say, no, but I didn't have time or whatever. So it's in bite-sized pieces. There are videos, there are small little tips and strategies. All you have to do is, today, can I try one thing which I didn't try yesterday? And if it works, share it. If it works, share it. Share it with another colleague and say, "Hey, Sunita, मैंने ये try किया, must है, तू भी try कर." Then Sunita will try, and then Sunita will tell Vandana.
So right. In fact, you said in your one of the answers earlier, take one day at a time.
Yeah.
So the same goes for learning, one chunk at a time, rather than making up excuses. And knowledge is available everywhere. It's all about our desire to learn, and it need not be too much at a time. It can be just little by little.
Small bites.
Yes. Thank you. I would like to know if you have ever believed in some of the quotes of famous people more than the others. Some quotes that come to your minds whenever you are in certain situations and they inspire you.
Well, like I said, Gandhiji is like my go-to whenever I need. I have to tell you that my own two children, I mean, I find tremendous inspiration with my own children, and I think a lot of it comes from just understanding that there is a way to look at life that is joyous and optimistic. And as we grow older, sometimes we lose that, and it's important to have somebody in your life, somebody. could be anybody in your life who continues to believe in the good of the people. And so seek that. Actively seek the good. And sometimes you might get really, really tired and you say, "Dekho, kuch nahi kar raha hai, ye bhi nahi kar raha hai, wo bhi nahi kar raha hai." And actively, I have of course had those moments. And I remember I go to my son, I say, "Baba, save me from myself. I'm getting into a mind like this. So please." And so my son and my daughter, Rag and Jazz, play a very important role for that. So I think for me, more than just quotes or whatever, I have actively tried to seek people or places or a time that makes me get that sense of optimism and joy back. So that's something. Having said that, I'm a great fan of Howard Gardner, and Howard's a dear friend now, and over the years he's become a great friend. So Howard's book was my turning point, The Frames of Mind, about multiple intelligences, which I read in 2001 itself. He became a very important shaper of my mind in education, because I didn't come from education. And the second place I remember going to, and I was stunned by their understanding and belief in young children, was Reggio Emilia. I had the opportunity again to go there in 2007 to do a study tour. Oh man, I came back completely shaped. So I think somewhere seek inspiration. You never know where you get it from, and be open to life. You have absolutely no idea when you wake up in the morning who you will be at 5 o'clock in the evening. So that,
Thank you. So I can call Kiran is a seeker. And that's what we all have to be, the seeker of optimism, the seeker of inspiration. And I can so much relate to your story of going to your kids when you feel that you are becoming your own enemy. And this is what I do when I feel like that. I go to my daughter and she shows me the good side of me. And the way she shows it, it seems that, okay, with this goodness, I probably might handle this situation also better. And it helps me somehow calm myself down, believe in myself, and handle the situation for that moment. Thank you. And about Howard Gardner, if I'm not wrong, you are following just 20 odd people on Twitter, and he's one of them.
Yes.
Yes, I've stalked you a little.
Oh yeah, he is amazing. I mean, he has such a succinct way of giving you insight. I remember in 2010, I was in a conundrum, and there was a lot of interest from people who say we want to do more riversides and blah blah blah. And I'm not a fan of the franchisee model, simply because I don't think you can replicate something that works in one setup. Just take it somewhere else. So I remember we were in Beijing together, and we were at a dinner, and I told him, I said, "Howard, I'm going through this conundrum about, that I need to be able to serve a larger good. We need to share our work with more people, but this model doesn't work." So he said something that time which has stayed with me ever since. He said, "Kiran, remember, excellence is also scale." And that was a massive thing, because it's like you become
also, I just missed it.
Excellence is also scale. The idea that you become a beacon or a lighthouse that can influence the conversation of education. So you don't have to have multiple riversides to do that conversation, right? You can still shape practice. Like, for instance, you all came to me and you all said, "Okay, we saw that, etc." Right? So, and that was a very important way to understand impact, to say that whilst you're, like, for instance, now Design for Change is in now 72 countries. Wo to gaya hai. That's a different idea of scale. But for Riverside, he kind of gave me that perspective. So I thought it was, and I've been very, very lucky that at certain times in my life when I'm in a conundrum, then I can reach out to some much more wiser people than me to receive perspective. So that's been a great blessing.
That's so true. It really helps when we know that there are some people in our lives we can rely on their advice, or at least they can help us discover within ourselves what is the best for us. So thank you for sharing that. I would also like to know which are the most important ethos for you as an educator that you would want in your children, teachers, everyone?
Important what? What in me?
The ethos, the philosophy. Why are we learning? What is education all about for you?
Well, I think the most simple purpose for me is really agency for the greater good. I mean, that if we are preparing our children to become citizens of the world, then their actions must be driven by the desire for the greater good. That for me is a non-negotiable.
Excellent. And that's how it starts with the seeds of empathy. And if I'm not wrong, I have read about you do hundreds and thousands of practices with children, but you made your children prepare incense sticks, sitting for long hours, just sitting, making incense sticks to relate to the pain of child labor. And I think that's how empathy starts.
But I have to tell you that very interesting reason. This was in grade 5. So, sorry, 2005. My very first batch, they were in grade 5, and I was invited to a workshop on human rights. There was this wonderful organization, I think called People Watch, who had just come up with a curriculum for children. One was on women's rights, one was on child rights. And they wanted a couple of schools to test it for them. And I mean, I have to say that the books are very well designed. It had real reports, newspaper reports of children whose rights were being, violated, etc. So it was a very well thought out curriculum. So I took it back and said, yeah, we will test it. And I remember I would take my group, and every Thursday I would kind of just read, and they would read from it. And they were deeply moving stories. And I remember my kids saying, yeah, ma'am, this is really bad. This is really bad. And then I thought to myself, boss, this can't be intellectual. The idea of child rights has to be a visceral experience. Yes. It has to be within your body.
It's not end with this sympathizing.
Yeah, it can't be, oh, that's a bad thing, right?
Yes.
So I rallied, I told you my team is awesome. So I rallied 2 of my team members, Parul and Preeti, and I said, we have to set up a simulated experience for them. Otherwise, they're not going to understand it.
Wow.
So they, being the wonderful people are, there is a sweatshop in close by to 15 minutes from here. So they went there, they checked out what the situation was, and we got the material. And then I told my kids, I said, boss, tomorrow there's going to be a very special day. Don't bring your lunch. School will provide. So the kids say, oh, very good, okay. And it was winter. So they came. I told them, you have to come at 8 o'clock in the morning, okay? And remember something special. So they all came. But then we just took out the sweater, we said, get in, and we started talking like those people. We said, now, niche, beto, all of that. And so the kids started, oh, I mean, what is this nonsense? And they started rolling. They thought it was a game, it would be a joke, it'd be fine. Oh, yeah, we'll be able to roll. And I have to say, the first 40 minutes, everything was paining. The body was aching. They didn't know, and they were not going to get food. They were going to get stale roti and pyaz. But I have to say something very interesting. So, moment they realized that this was an opportunity for them to really experience what it felt like, they gave it to them. They said, yes, we're visiting. Because I told them, I said, you can leave. No harm, no problem. If any of you feel that, no, you'll go and complain at home and say, Mama, maine ko ye kiya. I said, no issues, you can leave. Not a single child left. They stayed till 4 o'clock. It was really thick. But that turnaround was awesome. Immediately they said, man, we have to do something. We have to go. And what you see in the TED Talk, those children walking into the streets and talking to others, was completely driven by them. They did street plays. And since then, we've, of course, expanded this idea. Now they don't do it for just one day. They do it for 3 days. And the reason we do it for 3 days is to try to tell them that because in the 3rd day, it's actually easier to roll the sticks. And I tell them, do you understand how quickly a pattern can be created? So it's quite special. And we're able to do it only because the kids are so amazing and they walk into an experience wholeheartedly.
Yes.
And the parents, I mean, can you imagine parents allowing you to do stuff like this? I've really got the best parents as well. So it's been a real blessing. Yeah.
So I think the way you said earlier that the children have it all in them. Our job is not just to keep telling them things to do, but to give them an opportunity, let them look at an opportunity, provide that environment where they can think and they can design a process for the change that they want to see in the world. Oh, I think, within this few minutes, you have inspired me so much, Kiran. I just can't thank you for I can't thank technology enough today. Thank you so
I
much.
know, see this, we would not have been able to do this even 10 years ago. So,
Yeah,
we have to
I've always been wondering when will I ever get to meet Kiran again. But see, it would have otherwise not been possible. Thanks to Corona, there is a silver lining. I'm not undermining the impact it has been having on people, but then really, this is the silver lining. You were the silver lining
no,
during the
thank you.
pandemic, Kiran. Thank you.
Okay, so we have our last 10 minutes. What's the
Yes.
last question?
Yeah. So, like you said, that you have got the best set of parents. I would also like to say RRIS is equally blessed to have the best set of parents. Now,
I know.
as the partners, how do you bring the whole school family together of the parents,
Well,
students, staff?
it's been challenging now simply because of all of this. But I have to say that we've created some really interesting practices that help this. We've kind of crafted the relationship saying we're better together, right? I mean, that's really why we work together. So over the years, we have iterated, checked out different things that makes like right from a home visit to like a orientation, to workshops, to internships. We now have a wonderful set of ways in which we engage with parents. But over this COVID time, it's been actually interesting to engage with them. We've reached out to them in smaller groups to listen from them, to hear how long is too long, what should we want, how's flexibility, what does it mean about sharing devices. It's been really interesting, and I think reaching out and inviting them into the design of the online program has been a very important strategy that we did. And I have to say that I mean, God bless them. We had all of this going on, and we reached out to them also regarding, supporting the teacher team. Because, I mean, there was this pushback about fees and everything, as you might have been hearing. But it was such a blessing to hear them saying, no, ma'am, we're with you. Please make sure that all the teachers are safe and can be taken care of. I think the 20 years of building this relationship kind of showed the fruits now. And I think when times are tough, it's so incredibly heartening to see that all that work that you might have done over the years is returned when the time is tough for you. So it's been, I have to say, whilst, of course, this is the most unusual humanitarian crisis that is happening in the world, you will always remember this. I believe we want to reach out of this with again with compassion. I think that's really my go-to word: compassion and courage. I want to keep both these words as we go forward. Yeah.
Thank you. And I can see that you are talking about the learning programs which are going on during this time from the school. I've also been seeing some of your tweets and how you are carrying on with your online learning. Thank you for being a supporter for that. And also I can see you spoke about investing into the relationship with the parents over the years. So we are just, half of the age of Riverside. We are into 10th year of the school. But yes, I can see the investment of emotion, energy, time that you give into the relationship with parents. It definitely pays off. And there is no shortcut to it. What you need is empathy and compassion and the genuine desire to be partners in developing the children together. And we are together. We are better together. That's a wonderful line. Thank you. Now, there's one question. Like we keep saying that education is not only about the mind or the brain. It's about the heart and the hands. So it's about the cognitive and the psychomotor and the affective domains. What, according to you, weighs more in your philosophy?
A sense of humor.
A sense of humor.
I keep saying, I have to keep saying this, and I have met too many. I have gone to too many places and too many institutions that are so self-congratulatory and weighed down that we don't lift our children up. I think we don't smile anymore. We always think smiling is like a ulterior motive. Usko kya chahiye? Kyun smile kar rahe mere paas? We become so suspicious of each other and of who we are that we have, and that's one of the reasons why everybody has become fearful. Everybody is the other. Iske paas mat baitho, iske saath mat jao, ye aisa hai, ye waisa hai, right? And there is so much of that that's happening in the world that I feel of course, I'm making it lighter by saying a sense of humor, but I really feel the idea, we've really been having a crisis of compassion. We've been very creative in making somebody the other by any filter. You're too tall, you're too dark, you're too Hindu, you're too Muslim, you're too black, you're too this, right?
Right.
We are very creative to do that, and we forget that we are actually on the same team. Yeah, we're all as humans, all of us are finding our way through life. Everybody is figuring out how to live that one day better. And I think somewhere we forget that. And I think to be able to tell our children that it's not the length of time, but the quality that you will be remembered for, and that you need to present yourself. I think it is important. Yeah, and I say joy because I keep realizing that joy brings so much of the ability to welcome people into your life. You share food over a plate, and so I just feel that be wary of goodness. I mean, this idea that you're good children, and I think promotes the idea of joy. So joy is messy. It's not clean. It's
Right.
not neat. You can't put it in one little box.
Not neat.
I think just bring that into your spaces, and lead from there. Lead with joy. Everything else follows.
Thank you. So if joy is the root, then the fruits are going to be the best. It all has to be driven by the joy, and in pursuit of joy, like you said, you are in pursuit of excellence and bringing
Yeah.
out the best. So yes, if joy is the pursuit, thank you so much for that. So Kiran, I think there's already a lot that you have given to us to ponder.
Where did you go, Jaya? Hello? Jaya, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I think she got disconnected.
Oh, gosh. Okay. All right. Well, I hope she
Join
comes
back, I
back.
think. Join.
Ma'am, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Yes, I would want to give us some insights on remote learning. How are you facilitating remote learning at Riverside now these days?
Oh, I wish I had some wise words for you. I think we're still learning. I have to say that honestly. Couple
Yes.
of insights we're getting. I mean, things like the length of time and the quality of the pedagogy, which is different from which is offline to online. So we're bringing insights. I believe if you ask me this after 10 days, I will have better insights to share with you. But a couple of things that we have learned is for younger children, it should be what we call structured flexibility. That means children thrive under structure, but flexibility is
Yes.
mandatory because you're not dealing with children, you're dealing with parents in the younger years.
Yes.
So the flexibility that parents need to be able to serve their children must be part of the design solution, right? So that's one thing. For the middle years, we realize that there has to be guided self-direction. So while children are capable of doing a little bit more self-directed work, you are not leading it, but you're guiding it. So we've created lots of challenges which are transdisciplinary that children can do offline, and then when they're synchronous, they're really coming in to add value. So we've realized a little bit of the tips and tricks to do, breakout rooms and metacognitive questions, etc. And in the older years, we realized that personalization with accountability is key. You have to offer the opportunity for older children to opt out of a class, but opt into learning. So giving them and co-creating the non-negotiable. Just this morning, we worked with our oldest kids saying, you're no problem to opt out of a particular class as long as you will honor your own goals. So it's kind of your goal setting that you do. So that's your broad themes. Other than that, we've realized that the length of time, 20 minutes, I mean, that's like the rule of thumb that all of you know. So it's 20 minutes for the early years, and you've got 40 minutes, up to 40 minutes you can do with the middle, and then you have like a 45 minutes, 50 minutes with the older. But we've created very interesting things. We've created advisory circles, and we've created spark plugs for children to teach. We have created these really fun office hours for children to opt into. So we're testing this I would like to think that by the end of June, that is this at the end of another week or so, we would be more confident by sharing with anybody that these are like a threshold really good learning program. So that's what we do.
Yeah, request you to blog these things out for us. They would really be a good guideline for all of us.
Yeah, I think I'll make these tiny little campus diary videos.
Yes.
Do that. But we really want insights.
Certainly.
Thank you.
And Kiran, if you share that, we will make it available to all the attendees of today's talk. So we look forward to you sharing that. And there are two questions. If you have time, you may answer. One is how to develop grit and resilience in children. The other is what is the mindset or skills you look for in a teacher for joining your organization? These are from the participants.
For joining my organization,
Sense of humor?
older than me, fatter than me, coming. No. For first, I'll answer the first one. I think the first one actually is really the understanding of failure and how we have taught our children that. I don't think we understand that failure is really a more social concept. It has nothing to do with children and learning. So the problem of grit comes when you do not give the opportunity for children to iterate, to refine, to come back and make choices. So the moment you say, oh, you're a B or a D or an A, and then you don't give the opportunity for children to iterate, grit is less and less because children don't get the sense of comfort that they have made choice. So at Riverside, we have a very, very strong iterated process. We say you have a scrutiny, then you have an opportunity to refine. So our feedback loop is very, very, very strong at Riverside, and that allows children to then make choices and then realize if they didn't make the choice of changing, it's not failure, it's just responsibility.
Right.
You chose not to, well, you bloody deal with it. It's as simple as that. Don't then come and complain and cry. So that's
Amazing.
a really important idea. Regarding when sorry?
Miss Poonam Kurani, please keep yourself on mute. Miss Poonam Kurani, keep yourself on mute.
Yes, Poonam Kurani, Miss Poonam. My sister, Miss Poonam.
Poonam ji, please move.
Yes. About to do that.
Thank you. Poonam ji. By the way, Poonam ji, my sister's name is Poonam also. So don't worry.
1 minute. I'm just not able to find the mic.
So on the left, at the bottom on the left, you will see.
Yeah, I know that, but suddenly it's frozen. You can mute me too.
No, that's not possible for me. I'm not having the control.
Okay,
Anyway, no problem.
I'm trying.
So Kiran, the second question, is there any particular skill set that you see that you want in the teachers joining your organization?
Well, it again differs between each key stage. With the young, warmth, I think, is a very strong idea that we look at. Warmth, the idea of just warmth, the ability to, warmth. Warmth is an incredibly important piece. Warmth, stamina, and adaptability. I would say these are really, really important. Wanting to learn, willingness to learn, warmth with each other and with children, because that I've realized either can put people off or to invite you in. I've seen that no matter, even you're a PhD, and if you're not warm or welcoming, nobody wants to learn from you. So that's a really important structure. And I think, of course, when you're looking at older kids, you're looking at, of course, competency in subject matter and interest. Having said that, though, right now, the ability to facilitate and not be fearful of children having a voice, right. I would rate that really high. Yeah.
I like that last point a lot. Not to be afraid of children. In fact, that's our job, to make them know that they have a voice and we are ready to listen. And you started your session with listening. It's all about listening to the children. And it's like the circle. It's coming back to the circle. Listening. We started with listening and we end with listening. We have Dr. Mohammad Saeed, who is asking you, how important is the need of a leader like you for every school?
Oh, I am actually Mr. Mohammed. You come and take over my school, then I'll come take over your school. Don't worry. I think we should do an exchange program with leadership.
Yes, I'm taking your word for it. So
Yeah, no, but I think I mean, I'm not talking about me at the same. I'm just definitely saying, when I listen to you, Ajay, I'm listening to somebody who's willing to be vulnerable and to say that this is okay and this is not right. Most leadership, we don't necessarily train our leaders to become leaders. Either in a school setup, it's often from hierarchy or longevity. Banda has been there too long, to usko leader bana do, or is older. But I'm now convinced that you don't need a single leader. I think you need shared leadership in places. So I think schools now demand that new structure where shared leadership is the real
order.
fun of serving a larger good. So I think that's what I have seen. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, I have to leave.
Thank you, Kiran. Thank you. Looking forward to another coffee session with Kiran sometime soon.
Let's do that.
Bye bye, people.
Everybody. God bless.
God bless you too, Kiran. All the best. All the best to all the
Thank you.
participants. Bye bye. See you.
Bye.
So here is Jaya Parekh on behalf of Ram Ratna International School extending a warm gratitude to each one of you for being here. I can see many of my colleagues, my mentors. I can see Rekha ma'am right in front of me, and so many of those, Lakshmi ma'am, Vijaya ma'am, I could see so many of you here. Your presence itself added so much value to the program. Love you all with love and best wishes to Kiran and each one of us, and to everyone from our fraternity. Bye bye.
Thanks, Jaya. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
What a lovely moderation.
Thank you. Coming from you, it just made my day.
Joyful, one of the joyful evenings, seriously. I think it was
Thank you, Lakshmi Devi. Love you so much.
I would love to see Lakshmi around here. We rarely see her these days. She's so busy.
no, yaar. No, I'm very much around. अरे उस दिन कुछ हो गया था. I will tell you later. Some emergency happened halfway through the meeting of Arun. I had to drop out.
But nice to see you, Lakshmi. Really nice.
Yeah.
Yes. So, ma'am, we are going to soon have a ETST meeting where all of us have to be there.
Yeah.
Makes
No,
good work.
Just दो दिन
Lakshmi will
पहले
tell
I
Jaya
gone.
to organize that.
Yeah.
Yes,
No,
we'll do
but
that. I know.
दो दिन पहले I was there in the meeting, and
I
I
had back-to-back meetings with my parents and I couldn't join. It's my loss. Forgive me
No,
for
I-
that.
Jaya, you take care. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thanks to everyone who took out time to be here. We are indebted for this love and trust. And join us for future Adarshila Talks every Monday at 3 p.m. I hope you enjoyed coffee with Kiran today. Woohoo! Bye-bye. See you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thanks to the parents of RRIS who have joined us today. To all my colleagues, thank you. God bless you. Love you, everyone. Take care. Stay safe.
अभी निकल